The perfect Northwest IPA balances a subtle malt sweetness with some bright pine and citrus notes from the hops. So we're going to show you how to brew it today. Let's go get some malts and get started. Braj Lord fam. Before we dive into the malts that we're going to use for this beer, here is a screenshot of our Instagram. That is where we post regular content talking about new beers that we produce, fun toys that we get, superfluous images of Ryan, as well as swag and merchandise, all available on our website. Check it out. The Northwest IPA is one of the few styles where a small amount of crystal malt is actually appropriate, but if you've seen any of our videos, you know I like to avoid crystal malt like the plague, and so I'm actually going to be using just a touch of Special X for all my color and sweet flavor. This is the recipe that I'll be using today. To build some of the depth in this style, you can actually use a more flavorful base malt, but you do want to keep it relatively neutral because in the end, it should still be a relatively clean and clear beer. So we're going to be using a little bit of high color pale ale malt today to balance out our low ends. I'm also going to be using some Heidelberg malt because it's #1 highly enzymatic and it's not going to overcolor my beer. So kind of the opposite of the high color pale ale, but I just like using it. A little bit of Munich malt is again going to help balance out that mid-range without giving you too much crystal sweetness. We're going to basically be color adjusting with the Special X and building a little bit of malt complexity with all the base malts. So that's where Munich comes in. Overall, for water profile, the Northwest IPA is going to be relatively low total minerality compared to something like a West Coast IPA, but it is still going to have relatively high sulfates. This is the water profile we're going to be using for the Northwest IPA we're brewing today. As with every beer we make, especially IPAs, we will be adding ascorbs to the mash water. That is vitamin C, and it's going to prevent oxidation and make our beer more shelf stable.
So as we get mashed in here, we got our mash and boil that I have turned up to about 160 degrees from my strike water. Peter is adding all of our grains, and this should drop it down to right around 150 degrees to 152 degrees Fahrenheit. This is gonna hit us right in the middle of that saccharification mash range. We're not gonna do anything real special after this. We're gonna do a typical 60-minute long mash before we bring that temperature up to a boil. Now that we're 100% fully converted with the help of a little bit extra zymes, not cheating at all there, we are ready to start sparging. Hopefully this table can hold my weight.
Ooh, yeah, you're definitely gonna crash and burn.
So we're gonna sparge this up to right around 6 gallons. Typically, you're gonna wanna actually diffuse this, but that's not how we do things here at Genus. We just sort of dump it in. As for our hops, we are going to keep them classic. Right now we are sparging and coming up to a boil, and I'm gonna stick with 2 varieties. I'm going to use Columbus, or CTZ, standing for Columbus, Tomahawk, and Zeus, and then also Chinook. These guys are gonna be pungent. They're gonna give you that classic piney resin profile. As for the additions, we're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna blend these 2 together 50-50. We're gonna add 1 ounce total at 60 minutes. We're gonna add 2 ounces total at 15 minutes, and then 2 more ounces at flame out, and basically call it a day. If you don't have an ability to chill very quickly, you might want to change those 15 and flame out additions to more like a 5-minute addition and then a whirlpool or a flame out.
All right, we are done with our sparge. All of the liquid is in the kettle. We are heating up, getting ready for our boil. So Logan's just gonna weigh out those hop additions, and then we'll move on to the next step of this whole thing.
We're just now getting up to our boil. I'm gonna go ahead and add our bittering addition in here. Adding this before we actually hit that hot break will actually help things break out a little more smoothly so I don't end up with a giant boil over when I add them otherwise. All right, we got a 15-minute addition now. We've also got a little bit of super moss or some fining agent I'm gonna add at the same time here. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and plop all that good stuff in there.
You probably have Worldflock or Irish moss at home.
And get our hops in as well. All right, finally to the end of our boil now, and we just have our last addition to add, and then we are going to kill the heat and start chilling. Boom.
So we're chilling now. It's actually really important that you start chilling as soon as possible after your flame out addition so that all those volatile aromatics can stay in the beer as much as possible. It's gonna take us probably 15 to 20 minutes to get chilled. Then we're gonna go into the fermenter and we'll see you there when we're adding the yeast.
All right, here we are. Got it chilled down. One thing is that I have a strainer here because I don't have a good way to whirlpool this guy. So that's gonna strain out all my hops. You can already see some protein that's kind of building up on there. And then I have my fermenter that I've actually heat sanitized. That's the beauty of all stainless steel fermenters. And then the yeast today that we will be pitching is going to be Independence. This is one of our favorite yeast strains for any kind of Northwest, even West Coast beers can really benefit from this yeast. It's a great alternative to the classic Chico strain, which if you're going with Imperial would be their flagship strain. Our take on this is that it's just less minerally, less sharp, and really lets those hops shine through. All that's left to do is pitch this guy. Well, it looks like that's all she wrote. We're gonna go ahead and let this guy ferment out and then taste it in a couple weeks. Depending on how it's tasting then, we might add a dry hop, but otherwise a lot of these Northwest styles tend not to even need one. So that is it for the brew day. We will get back to you when this beer is done and have some fun tasting notes.
We could wait until this one's done, or another option, we could tell you what the one that we have on tap currently tastes like. And although it is done on a larger scale, it was done with the same hops, malt, and yeast bill as the beer we just made. Like I said, the sweetness of this one is very, very subtle and balanced with a little bit of toasty, almost nutty feel to it. But all that plays kind of a background tone to the aggressive hops that we used in this. The hops being both Chinook and Columbus offered a good balance of pungent, grapefruit and citrus, and pininess. As for the yeast profile, the Independence yeast offered a subtle fruitiness, but overall cleared up fairly bright. It's a great, easy, sessionable beer with a lot of flavor packed in. All in all, this style reminds me of just a really good fall IPA. It doesn't have some of the allure of a hazy IPA with those big tropical fruit flavors, and doesn't necessarily have all the same pungence that you'll get off of classic West Coast, but it is a good in-between. It's softer, it's sessionable, it's easy to drink, and it's a really fun style to make because it's not as hard to perfect as something like a hazy. So if this is something you liked, please like this video with a thumbs up. If you like what we do on this channel, subscribe to us. Check us out on Instagram because we post a lot of cool stuff on there too. Visit our website if you want to buy merch. And let us know if you want to see us do a tasting of this actual beer when the homebrewed version is out, and if you thought this was the perfect outro to this video.
Are you just following me around because Peter told me to?